mute if they get too loud.
What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. In this episode, it is an international break, but we've got plenty of discussion for you, and I'm joined by a fantastic panel tonight. So let's go through and introduce them, because you know me, I'm Harry Scarfe, and I'm your host for tonight. Firstly, Philip, welcome back onto the podcast. You stepped in my absence last week. Thank you very much for hosting. How have you been doing?
Yeah, I've been well. Thanks again for giving me the opportunity to host last week. Had a few StreamYard, get to know it issues at the beginning, but we got there in the end, and I think it was quite a good discussion as well. So it was very nice. So thank you for that again, and looking forward to some interesting chat tonight.
That's very good, thank you. And I listened to it during half time when I was at the England game at Wembley, and that was good. I enjoyed it, the bits I heard. So thank you so much, Philip, and some good positive feedback. But you're joining us from Frankfurt, Germany, as usual, right?
Yeah. I'm dialing in from Frankfurt in Germany. Looking forward to international break being over, obviously for Spurs, but also for Frankfurt, actually, because Eintracht are playing Liverpool here in Frankfurt next Wednesday. So the city's getting very excited about that. And then obviously Spurs to come here in a couple of months as well. So, yeah, very good.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Philip. Matt, welcome back onto the podcast. How are you doing? And tell people where you're joining from today.
I'm doing pretty well. Joining you all from Lincoln, Nebraska, about a dead middle of the United States, the 48 United States as you can get. Doing pretty well on this kind of warmish fall day we've got going on here. It's been unusually very, very warm here for fall. But next week I'll be heading over to your neck of the woods there, Harry, as I come to London for a business trip. The forecast looks very rainy next week, apparently. So, what else is new London in the fall? But
exactly. Welcome to England and welcome to London. That is the perfect way to sum up. I think your trip is rain. But no, thank you very much for joining us tonight, Matt. And Simon, last but absolutely not least, your third guest tonight. Tell people where you're joining from, and thank you for coming on.
Hi guys, I'm joining from Sweden. I'm at my house. In a couple of hard-working weeks, staying off Twitter, trying to. Taking advantage of the international break and just working on a couple of personal projects. I'm good. I'm looking forward to this little chat we're about to have. So thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. Really do appreciate it. Just a few things to say before we get to partner stuff and then eventually get into the podcast. Firstly, I could say it. I'll say it again. Thank you, Philip, for hosting Thursday's podcast. It's much appreciated. Just a few things, really, just to say 22 countries on YouTube in the first 13 days of October. People have been listening for 22 different countries. This is just on the YouTube channel. It's incredible. And I went over and thought, let's have a look at audio. It's very similar. It's about 21 people from different countries as well. So thank you. That's absolutely incredible all around the world. You'll be glad to know. I mean, Germany's big, America's big, but Sweden is just absolutely huge so far this month. It's actually pushing the UK, which is just like, wow, I come from nowhere. So thank you. Need to start learning different languages here, but no, honestly, that means a lot. And a couple of days ago was
it's probably my sex tape went up.
Certainly something.
I'm very famous.
Certainly you coming on here it will help. Thank you. And also a couple of days ago was a 4-year anniversary of the YouTube channel. So thank you very much. And actually had a special way to celebrate it. Just about to click going live. And I just found out that the total YouTube channel has reached 1 million views since creation in 2021. So that's incredible. 4 years ago, 0 views, and to get to 1 million is a significant milestone. I didn't know it was achievable at the start of the year, so thank you. It's credit to everyone that listens, everyone comes on the podcast. You all, it's fantastic, so thank you so much. And also thank you all on a personal note, for voting for me at the Football Content Awards. The voting is now closed, so we'll find out on the 20th of November in the ceremony in Leeds whether I've won it or not, whether I've got top 3 or not. So thank you for everyone on a personal note that did vote. Before we get into it, shout out to all our partners, which is ever growing at the moment. Firstly, the Kitman, long-standing. Check out the Kitman for all your genuine classic parts, season football shirts, shorts and scarves. Relive former players and memorable goals with some retro memorabilia from the Kitman. You can even use the coupon Scarfey15, capital S, for a 15% discount. Then you've got Everything Spurs Discord, one of the biggest online Tottenham communities with over 10,000 members worldwide. It's literally going up as we speak. It's owned by Wilsey, who you know is a regular on the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast, renowned Spurs content creator, top one too. Wilsey's also a proud and big part of my thumbnails team. Inside his server, you'll find live match chat during every Spurs game, transfer news and rumours, loads of Spurs banter and debates, plus gaming, FPL and off-topic channels to keep things fun between the matches. Very ideal for these type of situations. International break. 24/7 virtual hub for Tottenham fans, pretty much. So if you're Spurs, please do get involved. Then third, we've got Dan Gaze's Support Services Limited. They provide experienced staff to support young people to fulfill their potential, develop their skills and be active and positive members of their community. Key aims are to build direct relationships, be a positive and consistent role model, coach and mentor young people to develop their skills and teach self-regulation. They have a wealth of experience in social, emotional, and mental health as tutors, teachers, senior leaders, and HLTAs, that's high-level TAs. They're proud sponsors of Nick Freeman and former Tottenham footballer Harvey White. I'm also an ambassador for them. Then you've got in the 290. That's for any football analysts, scouts, or aspiring analysts and scouts as well. In the 290 is a Discord community to share workflows, to get real feedback and learn together. And last but not least, a new partner to announce today, and that is the Tottenham Programme Collector, a supplier of old Tottenham programmes, handbooks, match tickets, and fan size. 100% of every sale, by the way, is donated to charity. Now, so let's get straight into it. Philip, can I ask you, before we get into all the fun stuff, I mean, it's still fun to discuss this. How's the season gone so far in your eyes?
Well, I think we're ahead of where I thought we'd be at this point of time. I mean, I was a massive, Frank fan, anyways, and was looking forward to him coming in. I had a feeling that he would, tactically kind of sort us out a bit quite quickly. That was my hope, and I believed it as well. And I've been pleasantly surprised, though, by how quickly he's managed to do that. At the end of the day, I mean, the facts don't lie. I think we talked about it over the last couple of weeks, right? The fact that we're the only team that haven't conceded a goal after the 75th minute. We're the only team that hasn't given up a lead, and then not won the game. We've come back twice from 2-0 down when we may have crumbled, and potentially we could have won both of those games as well with a bit more quality in terms of our attacking play, which we've obviously talked about as well, in terms of how is that going to improve? When is it going to improve? What's the score with that? But for me, I'm pleasantly surprised, when we won a game, before international break, right? The last the last 2 weeks of actually being in a warm glow of Tottenham positivity, right? Unlike going into the international break after a terrible performance, and then the players and also the fans having to wait for that whole international break to get back, to be able to do a win. So we've kind of managed that. So yeah, I'm very happy with how the season's gone so far. Of course, there's some elements that I haven't been happy with, right? That I think still need improving. Even on Frank's side, maybe some of his decisions sometimes have been a bit, questionable on occasion, right, within some of the games. But I think probably most managers, you can do that too. But yeah, overall, very, very happy. And I can't wait to get cracking again this coming weekend in what's going to be a very tough game, I think.
It's good. It's good to say, because last season, I think we can all share there were times where we weren't looking forward to seeing us play, and there's some times where we were, because we played exciting football, ended up winning the Europa League. But it's nice, isn't it, to be able to look forward to Spurs playing and kind of losing that Spursy tag too. So thank you, Philip, for your thoughts there. Simon, what have been your thoughts on the season so far? I know you've got a few statistics with you, which by all means do read out. What have you made of it? You're on mute, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of ways of looking at it. I think it's important to kind of manage one's expectations, especially early in the new coach era. I mean, there's good things, and there's a couple of things that aren't as good. I think the good things overwhelmingly exceed the things that we still have to work on. I do think, as Philip rightly points out, I think there's a lot of good stuff that we're seeing with our defense. I think there's a lot of good things that we're seeing with our set plays, with corners, and stuff like that. I do think we've become more solid and structured in the way we play. And I do think we're seeing a coach that is very good at working with the players individually, and just interacting with them, making them feel seen. I think that's very important, especially when you've won something and the coach that you're leaving is very popular with the players. And I think he's overwhelmingly exceeded our expectations when it comes to winning them over and selling them on what we're on this era and what he wants to do. So I'm very positive in a lot of ways. I do think that there's this big question mark still, and I think that's natural. I want to say that, but I think it's a club that's this big that goes into a lot of games and should dominate and need to kind of get a little bit further when it comes to controlling games and possession and being able to consistently create good opportunities to score. And I think you see that even though we've had really great results, I think we out of the 10 games we played, we've only lost one. That's extremely good. I think we're further along than start of last season. I think we had 10 points at this time last season. We have 14 now. And as Philip points out, we're not conceding in the second half. We're holding on to leads and stuff like that. But I also think that we're not creating a lot. We're not controlling games that we should to the level that we should. Like in an ideal world, not that we should right now, but that we want to see. And with that comes also games that might be a little bit more fun to watch sometimes. I think a couple of games have been really, boring, for lack of a more, intellectual phrase. But that's okay, right? Because the important stuff is happening, which is we're winning games, or getting points at least when we're not winning. But we still have stuff to sort out. So, that's where I'm at right now.
Okay, I appreciate that, Simon. Thank you. Matt, can I come to you? How do you think Thomas Frank has done so far? How's he settled in?
I think he settled in pretty well. I will say that it's pretty clear. You can immediately tell he has a different game plan for each game, which is certainly a nice breath of fresh air that we have a guy who's tactically sound and adjusting to what the opponent will do. Some of the subs have been a little questionable, but I will say that that's probably him figuring out the side and who does better where and whatnot. My main takeaway is I feel like I'm going to say back five, but like basically the back line plus Polina have been settled. Now it's about figuring out who the other five outfield players who can pair with them to control the game and go forward and be a tangible offensive threat more than, a handful of times in a game. That's kind of the sticking point right now. And I will say that part of that is on Frank, but part of that is on team construction, right? We knew that left wing was a question mark going into the season. We knew that without Matters and Kulo, that midfield and, some attacking presence and creativity was going to be a question mark. Now we've got, kind of, I don't feel like the midfield controls things very well. I mean, I know I just said Polina's been great, and that's true. But I feel like if you put when we put Xavi in there with Sar, it's almost like two defensive and only one creative guy. So I would say so far I'm pretty pleased with what Frank has done in the results. And it's hard to argue with only one loss in the first 10 games in all competitions. I was talking to a friend of mine about, I know we haven't had a clean sheet in the league in a few games, but Vicario's had 3 clean sheets already this year. He had 11 in 62 and in the 62 previous Premier League games. So the defense is getting better. The offense will show up, and I kind of feel like
I think we have the second best defense right now in the league. Just to add to your point, only Arsenal have conceded less goals.
The foundation is there, because if you can keep teams from scoring, it doesn't really matter if you can't score. You're putting yourself in a position to get a result at the end of the day anyway. So, a little bit more offense would be nice. But again, we knew coming into it that there was going to be some questions about, the number 9 position and left wing, and midfield's a little thin. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, appreciate that, Matthew. I've got another question for you, actually, and that is, do you think we should have more points on the board in terms of, we've all been happy with this, I think before the ball was kicked or even at points in the season, but do you look back and go, look, we could and should have beaten Wolves, 2 individual errors against Brighton, do you look back and think we could have had even more points than we have now?
Yeah, probably. I would say the Wolves one sticks out to me. They come in, they have 0 points, they're dead last. They're coming into, your place, and you let them get on the board first, and we fought back to get the result from them. That one stings, certainly. I don't know, Brighton's always a tough matchup for us. Whatever it is about Fabian Hurtzler's system, always seems to be a tough matchup for us the last few years. So I'm kind of okay with that. But the Wolves,
I just feel like Frank's pragmatism and also his willingness to let other teams control what's going to happen in the game, because he's a different type of coach than Ange is. This, where the protagonist, how we play, is going to define the game, whilst Frank is more, will sit off. You can have the ball. He's much more willing to do that. I think, especially now when he doesn't have, as you point out, Kulusevski, Maddison, players that really can help us keep the ball. But with that comes this more risk, in the sense that you're kind of
inviting.
You invite pressure. You invite the other team to control what's going to happen, and then it's up to you to kind of take advantage of their mistakes. And I just saw a stat that we're the best pressing team in the league, which I kind of was surprised by, because I haven't really seen that. But it does make sense that a lot of our goals come from us winning the ball and attacking quickly and just scoring on low. And I know people hate XG right now, but low percentage chances. So we're not really controlling games and creating a lot of chances by controlling the game, but we're instead controlling this our defensive area, and then kind of taking our opportunities where we get them. And that's just that will open you up for those games where Wolves all of a sudden have one of those games where they go for it or whatever.
That's a good point. That's very interesting, actually. I didn't know that about the passing stat. I mean, that's it's kind of surprising, but I didn't think we'd be the first. So thank you for that stat.
Yeah, I mean, when you watch the games, it doesn't really, or at least from my perspective, haven't felt like that. It did feel like that early against PSG and a couple of those games. Like, we were really aggressive. Man City comes to mind, but hasn't really felt like that. But yeah, there you go. I also saw, like, statistically, we haven't scored a lot of on direct attacks, which has felt like really something we've done. It's basically attacks with less than 10 passes, and that's felt like something we've tried more under Frank. But instead, we're really high on build-up attacks. which you don't. Again, something I hadn't really felt like something I've seen, but when I think about it, we do a lot. We do build up quickly a lot of times. Like it might be 2-3 passes from the goalkeeper, and then we're up and attacking. So it feels like a counter, whilst counters are something we haven't done a lot at all. So it's one of those things where I think how he plays is deceptively a little bit different than how he feels sometimes.
That's interesting. That's really interesting points. I think we could spend the whole podcast talking about Frank and the job he's done and Spurs, what we can do this season, how we've been so far. But we're not going to. We're going to move on now to a Spurs, what I call international discussion. If you're not sure what that means, basically, is a fancy kind of way of putting how Spurs have done during the international break in terms of the players that have represented us. So I've got a few individuals I want to discuss, but I'm going to go around the panel and see who's impressed you, kind of so far before we get into it. And Philip, I'll start with you if you don't mind. It could be one player, it could be more than one. Who's impressed you so far?
Well, I actually didn't watch the England-Wales game, and I saw the result, and I didn't watch the highlights even, but I heard that Spence, kept Brennan Johnson quiet. Well, I saw that, right, because I think he did a particularly funny X post, I think, or Insta post, didn't he? With
he has a habit of putting attackers in the penitentiary.
Yeah.
So he did the same.
He kept him under lock. So I guess Spence, but you could probably talk about that as well because you were there live in the stadium for that. But I think for me, personally, I watched quite a lot of the under-21 games because we've got Odebert and Mathis Tel obviously playing every game for France, basically on opposing flanks, right? So literally one on the right, one on the left. And I think in the last international break, they both played really well as well. I think Tel scored a couple of wonder goals, from outside the box as well. And then this one now, they've scored again multiple times, and from what I can see on X popping up, they've assisted one another again tonight. Odebert with an absolutely ridiculously flary flick in the box over to Tel. So been very impressed with both of them, and they really seem fit into that system at the moment. What France are playing, and feel very happy kind of in that setup at the moment. And it's obviously different than coming into the Premier League and obviously doing it at a higher level and probably, at a higher pace, right? Much quicker, got less time on the ball, right? Compared to France under 21, who, to be fair, whoever French under 21s are playing is probably going to be a weaker team than them in some respects because, the under 21 French team is probably, one of the top 3 out there, right? In the world, I would say, in terms of young talent. So it's different, but they're delivering, and I think it just proves maybe to some fans as well that we should believe in them. Like we shouldn't get on their back. They're both super young. They haven't played lots of games in a row. Odebert's been in and out over the last season. He's only been here a year. Tel obviously he's been here 9 months and obviously had some challenges as well, right, in that time. But, they've kind of proven that they can do it. So I'm just happy about the fact that they're obviously playing well for their international team, albeit for the under-21s. And, hopefully that puts them in good stead for the coming games because they're needed, aren't they, with our lack of options on the left, let's say. For Odebert and Tel can play there as well, or he can play up front as he did very well in the last game. So that's what stood out really for me, to be honest.
So here's a question for you, Philip. You mentioned that they were playing both were playing the wings at the same time, right? So it got me thinking. Kudus has played center forward almost as often as he's played right wing in his career. So could we do like Odebert, Tel, and Kudus as a front line, with Kudus being the 9?
I was just going to say, Frank played Kudus kind of as a 2 up front, didn't he? With Richie was it against Paris, possibly in the Super Cup, and maybe one other game when he played 3 at the back, 5 at the back, kind of played him just off the front man, but like very central.
Yeah,
And
he played him in it was the Super Cup, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that he did really well. And I like it when Kudus comes centrally as well, or comes inside, right, into that central part of the pitch. Because to be honest, wherever he is on the pitch, he's dangerous. I don't think he would be able to play as a, like a kind of classical number 9 by himself. Because I think in the Frank system, with the amount of balls, longer balls, you need that player who can really, and Kudus can hold the ball up, right? Of course he can. He doesn't lose. He never loses the ball, right? But I just think he's not, he's maybe just physically not big enough, dominant enough. And I think he might be wasted a bit in that position, I'd rather
what
have
I would
him,
say,
as
just
a
to add to what
second.
you're saying. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I'd rather have him as a second striker, up top with someone else. So it could be that he's up there with Tell in the center, and maybe they even swap. Maybe they kind of rotate a bit, right?
Frank does have a three.
Dynamic.
Frank does have like a five. What is it? 5-2. No, 5-3-2 setup, which is when he played up front, I think.
Yeah,
I mean,
Brentford.
The thing I felt with Frank, and you mentioned it before, Philip, a little bit, and I think you too, Matt, with the midfield and what we've seen in the midfield, he's become really like enamored with this thing of having 3 really physical midfielders, 3 pretty defensive midfielders. I think it worked very well against PSG, and he got a little bit caught up in that, and that's why we haven't seen Xavi as much in the 10 or in the middle as much as we have wanted. So he's been a little bit slow with, wanting to add more creativity to the midfield. And me, when we got Kudos, my first thought was, he's definitely going to use him in the 10 or in midfield, because he played a lot in midfield at Ajax, and he's really good. He's got that strong body. He's really good at doing a lot of stuff that we like. We loved Zuma doing, receiving on the turn, having someone in his back, but the ball sticking to him and him being able to progress the ball through the middle, something we've had issues with, right? So, and he can't also. So I've been surprised we haven't seen that, but I do think it's because Frank has been really, had this idea of playing, Sar, Palinia, Bentancur, Berival, having this really physical mid 3. And not really being wanting to kind of take someone out and conceding. Because in his mind, his first job is now, okay, this team conceded so many goals last year, so I have to set them up to be defensively solid. So he's been kind of hesitant to play creative players in midfield. But if he did that, then absolutely, I think Taylor could do a really good job on the right wing. And also, you have to remember, like, Kudos have played a lot of minutes. I don't know if he's going to be able to play 60 games. So I do think we need some alternative on the right flank. That's not Brennan. And, Kulusevski is coming back, but I definitely can see Tell being used on the right.
Can I just say one quick thing adding to that, Simon, or kind of building on that? I completely agree with you about that, and I also think that coming back to the point that was discussed earlier on about the midfield and the lack of balance, or maybe the fact that the midfield isn't quite maybe being effective enough overall, right? And again, we've talked about that on the pod as well before, right? But for me, right now, that's Frank's biggest challenge. And I think that getting the balance of the midfield right will automatically unlock more out of Odebert, Tell, and Kudus, but certainly, the players that are coming in there, right, are playing less games. Kudus, I think, he's going to be effective wherever he plays, to be honest, at the moment. He's that good, right? And he's on such form. But maybe we do have to rest him at some point, and then Tell can come in there on the right, whoever else. But I think if they get the midfield balance right, that front 3 And those two guys or those three guys, I think almost automatically will go up another level just because the midfield, like the balance is right, you know? And you'll see that in the games.
Because how we're playing right now, we're playing like a U form, right? That's why I've called it. We play on the sides and we concede the whole middle, especially on the ball. And so there's this hesitance of playing through the center of the pitch. And especially if Romero is not playing, then nothing's happening in the middle of the pitch. So I think that will help. I think Solanke coming back will help because then we're going to have a target man that can actually receive. I think playing Xavi more in the middle, Madison coming back. Because that is the thing because right now, if he's playing Xavi, he's playing Bentancur and Palhinha, and they don't really progress the ball through the middle. And I also think Frank is deliberately, playing through the wide area and between the lines. He wants to play that way, and I think he's being really deliberate with that. I think it's because he doesn't want to concede the ball in the middle of the pitch. He doesn't trust anyone to kind of be able to progress the ball. And I think that's the philosophy I talked about earlier, that I think when you're Brentford, I think that's enough because you're kind of playing the margins. But when you're Spurs, I think sometimes by not being brave and playing maybe Bergwall and Palhinha and Xavi, where we will have more of the ball and keep the ball better and control games and concede less that way. In certain games, not doing that and not being brave in that way, you might you instead invite pressure. You invite the other team to come take control of the games. So I think Frank will. We're going to talk about what's coming up, and I think these bigger games against Villa, Newcastle, and whatever is coming up, I think he'll get those results, or I think he gives us a really good chance in those games. It's these other games where, when it comes to Wolves and Brighton and other more teams that we should dominate, that's where we still have room to grow.
That's an interesting discussion. Thank you both for that. I enjoyed listening to that. I think you both make some really good and relevant points, so thank you. But Matt, can I now come to you and find out if anyone else has impressed you so far in this international break for Spurs?
Yeah, I would say Danzo looked really good. Now, granted, Austria versus San Marino is not what we call, a must-watch game. It's a little one-sided, as the scoreline showed it, 10-0.
10-0, yeah.
Cool. But Danzo played, the full 90 minutes, got an assist.
Was it from a long throw?
I don't remember actually, but he looked pretty good. Spence, great story arc with Spence, to be on, like redemption arc here that we're on with Spence, from almost being out of the side to working so well. He got himself a deal to stay with Spurs, and now he's on the English national team and shutting down teammates.
Fun to see England also get on that PR, because they posted a couple of clips with Spence. They gave him a calm. They posted clips from training. Yeah,
so I really quite enjoyed the Spence redemption arc, is I'm calling it. He looked pretty good. I mean,
Porro,
he helped put up a clean sheet, right? He did get a yellow card, unfortunately, but it is Pedro Porro, so kind of comes a little bit with the territory. But yeah, pretty. I will say it's interesting how good Portugal appears to be. That Palhinha was an unused sub for them, so some of these teams are pretty deep. But I'll say, and then Kudus had himself a pretty good showing too.
No, again, it's a good shout there. Thank you, Matt. And it's always getting that balance, isn't it, into the international break, where you don't want players to get injured. Therefore, it's good when they don't play, but you don't want them to not play 0 minutes and maybe be a tiny bit rusty. But that kind of moves me nicely into the first individual I want to focus on this international break, who unfortunately was the victim of, in the end not wanting him to feature, and that is Yves Bissouma. So story here, Bissouma was stretchered off for Molly just seconds, literally less than 15 seconds after he entered the pitch. This, we've seen players get injured quickly. I mean, this has got to be up there with the very quickest. He was visibly distressed. I first think it was an awful tackle, but even so, that looked like a player that had been brought back too quickly. Simon, I mean, it doesn't look good at all, does it, from Bissouma's point of view?
No. He's probably out for a while. I mean, I didn't really read more. I don't know if you guys have more information than I have, but I just saw a clip. I mean, I actually do think that Frank was open to using him, even though it looked like he was totally out. But now, definitely, he won't see him for a while. And I think also he might be in risk for AFCON this year, right? Yeah. So I mean, even if he weren't to play for us, if that becomes like a danger thing for him, he might miss AFCON. That would be really would be a big shame, because that would probably be his biggest chance to get to play some football this year. So yeah, I'm really bummed out for him, because he's a nice guy. You know, he might not be for us long term, but I still wish him all the best.
100%. Well said. Thank you, Simon. I mean, Philip, the guy can't catch a break at the moment, can he? Not a good start to the season at all for Bissouma.
No, I mean, it's just very, very, very unlucky, and I feel really sorry for him and feel bad for him. I think he's got himself a bit of a, kind of almost a bit of a bad reputation somehow, like with a lot of Spurs fans, for kind of, I don't know why, really. I know he's obviously been a bit undisciplined in his game sometimes, like getting stupid red cards or getting booked or giving the ball away, just, from situations he has. And I think he's got a bit of an unfair, kind of cop really from a lot of Spurs fans overall. He maybe hasn't helped himself on occasion, but, there was still a good player in there somewhere, right? I guess everyone hoped or hopes that he would get back to his Brighton form, right? When he was one of the best midfielders in the league, right? That one season, literally what he was doing on the ball, gliding past people like Dembele kind of style, and actually controlling games. So probably he wouldn't have made it back in to be a first team, like regular under Frank, right? Like literally starting the majority of games, but he's a good squad player, right? If we didn't get rid of him, if we didn't move him on. And I think he would have, I agree with Simon as well, and Matt as well, I think he would have got game time under Frank. But I would imagine, I wonder whether we might even see him play for Spurs again now. Someone was saying on X that it could be, well, obviously no one knows yet. I think he's having a scan, but it looks like it could be like, somewhere between 3 to 6 months based on what some people said the severity of the injury was, right? So, he's probably not going to play for Spurs again. So feel sorry for him, but it is how it is. He's one of those players that kind of came in, to be fair to him, at the end of last season, he actually stepped up, didn't he? Also in Ange's team, he stepped up and he played those games in the Europa League, and he actually played really well. He was disciplined. He didn't, make any stupid mistakes. So I was really happy with him actually at the end of last season. So I felt really bad for him then when he got his knee injury. So, yeah, but again, he probably goes down as yet another Tottenham player that we've bought for quite a bit of money, who in the end just kind of was, flattered to deceive, right? He just hasn't, got to the level that you would hope that he would have done when he came in, And it's happened so often for us, hasn't it? We've got a long list of players, especially midfielders, actually, as well, right? We've bought so many midfielders, like, for big money. We can all reel the names off that have come in and just pretty much tanked. And in Bissouma's case, he didn't tank, right? He didn't tank. He's not been...
He's just inconsistent, right?
Yeah. Exactly. He's shown glimpses of what he can do, and maybe that's made it also more frustrating, right, from a fan perspective as well, because you just think if he can just stay fit, get 30 games, be a first team regular, run that midfield, get back to the Brighton. So, yeah, it is how it is. I feel bad for him, but I hope that. I mean, maybe the injury isn't as bad as what those people are saying online, right? Maybe it looked worse than it is. Maybe he's only out for, I don't know, a month or 6 weeks or something, and he could maybe play his way back into being an option for us.
Yeah, I would say I'll agree with you that he looked far better in the second half of last year, especially in the Europa League games where he was pivotal in the midfield. But it's kind of hard to count on a guy who can't even count on himself, right? Didn't he get in trouble for the nitrous oxide, for sniffing the nitrous oxide, and then showing up late to meetings? And I think we also tried to sell him this summer, but it fell through because of the character stuff, if memory serves. So I will say about the injury, I'm glad to see that in the clip his ankle doesn't look out of place, because that's the first thing I looked for was like, is it at an angle it shouldn't be?
It's the tibia broken, like
right.
had that.
So and there's no other, I just did a search. There's no other news other than it appears to be an ankle injury, but the severity we don't know yet. So look, hopefully he comes back for us. Gives us some much needed depth in the midfield, because when he's on top of it, he can control a game. He can hold the ball up for us. He can at times be creative through the midfield. But maybe this will give him a chance to continue maturing character-wise, and as he heals, and work with Frank off the field to kind of work his way back into the squad once he's healthy.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, that'd be the aim. So we, of course, all wish him a speedy recovery. Every Spurs fan you'd hope would do that. Can I come back to you, Philip? We spoke about Spence, so I'll move on to Ben Davies. Tonight, he made his 100th Wales appearance, so it's be a big moment for him. And, isn't it amazing that he just keeps himself fit all the time? The Wales manager, Craig Bellamy, spoke about this. We've had Frank speak about it. Very rarely, if at all, is Davies injured. Is that impressive at his age to keep going and keep banging in those performances too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love Ben. I mean, he's like your model, your dream professional, isn't he? Right? Really, he always gets on with it. He's a positive member of the leadership team. He's always in a good mood, literally, or he seems to be, right? He's always a positive influence, and he's like Mr. Dependable for us. He's coming. I think probably even he himself will admit that he's not obviously at the level he was, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, right? But he can still put a shift in, right? But I think we have to also acknowledge that whenever he's played against higher opposition, for us, in the last 2 years, he hasn't really looked great. And in the old days, he could do a job on the left, couldn't he? Like as a left wing back or as a left, back, because he had pace actually as well. I think that's just not possible anymore. The only thing I would say is that under Frank's system, he's not really required to play a high line, anymore. So actually, thinking about it, why not? Right? He's left-footed, right? We've got Mickey there. We're still probably we're probably lacking still that left-footed strength and depth, right, at the back there. And if we play more pragmatically, then actually maybe Davies can still offer something for us, But he's just very impressive, like, I love him. I still hope that he doesn't leave and that we just give him a coaching role straight away, even with the kids or whatever, right? It doesn't even need to be first team. It can be more with the kids, possibly the next talent coming through, which I think he's interested in. But he's a Spurs legend, really.
Yeah,
like, to be honest,
he's
right?
won his trophy now too.
Yeah, he got his trophy. He's been through. Can't even remember who actually would have signed him. Was it actually Poch signed it, or was he even here before that?
Do you think he's the player that's played for Spurs under the most coaches?
Probably.
Probably, right?
Yeah. Probably right now in the squad. Yeah, I mean, obviously Kane would have been, Sonny would have been.
Sonny.
Sonny would have been.
Sonny and Davis, Kane. Yeah, that's the group, right? Not
He Davies joined Tottenham in 2015. So
yeah,
that's a lot of turnover in 10, 11 years.
Yeah, so I think he's probably, I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for the whole history of Tottenham, but he's probably up there. And he's played for every coach as well. He's been used and loved and appreciated by every coach.
But my point is, how often has he been injured during that period? Really, if you think about it, I'm sure he would have been at once, but not a lot at all. I struggle to remember a time where we've gone, Davis is out, and that's real credit to him. Even at his age now, just keeping himself fit. I think it's incredible.
And stuff, but no.
That's it.
Yeah.
I remember once, illness, that's about, there's not many at all.
I do think it's
I
interesting.
think
he
I think he really does look after himself. I think there was an interview as well, that was, Kane, like famously, Kane doesn't drink as an example, right? I think Davies doesn't either. I think he really looks after himself in the best possible way, right? As a kind of sportsman. There's still a lot of footballers that maybe don't, and that's maybe contributed to it as well. He's such a nice guy. I can imagine that I don't know for a fact, but I have the feeling that he literally, how he lives his life is like, kind of like, perfect, right? Right. He's a family man, right? There's absolutely zero scandal. He's a very, he's not a show off, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't drive a flashy car, right? He's got a very boring, estate or something, but that's a credit to him, right? And I think he's just down to earth and very humble. And if he lives his life and trains in the right way and eats in the right way and does all of that, then that kind of can have an impact, So
it's a pro. It's an experienced pro. I think, I don't know.
He's a role model as well.
Yeah, I mean, now when Son is left and Dyer is left and Kane is left and Levy is left, it feels like it's really important to have a couple of characters in there, or like someone in there that could kind of represent the club and kind of just be that Spurs man in the squad, even if he doesn't play a lot. I mean, I don't expect him to play a lot, but just being that experienced pro, it's him and Palhinha basically now. That's over 30. Am I forgetting anyone? I'm not, right? It's basically those guys who've seen it all, done it all, and add to that, he knows the club inside out. So I think when we have so many young guys in the squad, it's really important to have that, as you say, for that stable man, family father, been at the club for a long time, exceptional professional, to just set the standards, right?
Yeah, he's kind of like what they in the States, for baseball, we have these guys we call clubhouse presences, where they're just vets that you sign. They don't really play. They may come in and spell some guys for a game here and there, but during the course of the season, they're basically your in-house mentors to right the ship and keep things going. That's that's basically Ben Davies at this point. Although last year, when he wasn't injured, I mean, he was injured for a decent period last year, but everybody was. But when he wasn't injured, man, that guy played pretty well at a few different spots, filling in that back line. So,
he's the type of guy. He shows up in time, does his work, doesn't, he respects the coach.
I was going to say, I wonder if they have Davies kind of acting as a mentor to like Jed Spence a little bit to keep him on the right track. And
good shout.
I actually thought Davies would be more like, as Philip said, more of like a mentor figure, just not playing a lot. And because I actually didn't think he would be included in the European squad, for example. I thought he'd really just be, someone you keep on for the sake of it, and him just having his last year on his contract and then go into some kind of ambassador role or coaching role at the club, because we know he wants to be a coach. But he's actually been included, and I kind of get it now. You know, it's important to have that character with him when you travel to Europe and away games. And, you know, just having that leader there. So yeah.
Before we move on from Ben Davies, can we see him being a head coach in the future? I'm only asking this question. We've seen, I know, we don't like him because he's Arsenal, but Jack Wilshere, of course, former player, today become Luton Town manager. But there's a load of jokes about him that he'd pull his hamstring, get injured, he'd be the first manager to get injured, all that. But the general serious point is that, more players are becoming managers, they're interested in coaching, becoming head coaches. Can we see Davis being a head coach? Yeah, I don't think so.
Absolutely. He'll be 10. Honestly, he'll be 10 times the manager that Jack Wilshere will ever be. I'll put everything on the line, like, for that, with the greatest respect to Jack Wilshere. But from a character perspective, right, from how he is, and from his understanding of the game, and from all of his experience, as I said, how he is as a role model as well. Ben Davies, if he wants it,
he's played for every type of coach manager: Jose, Conte, and Frank.
I was just going to say that.
The fact that he's intelligent enough to be able to adopt all those philosophies and all those styles, it says everything about it.
I mean, the number one thing that makes you a really good manager is to be a leader of men. Yeah. And there's no doubt that Ben Davies can be he's a leader in the locker room right now, even without playing. So, I would think he would have taken a little bit from everybody, and use his leadership. And eventually, I wouldn't be shocked to see him as a manager of a first team. Somewhere impressive.
Okay. And then we've got Ryan Mason, of course, recently, West Brom manager. They're doing well. A couple of dips recently, but generally a good start for him. The last player I want to discuss then before we move on to the cash injection recently and a couple of other questions I've got to wrap up. Simon, I've got to ask you about Lucas Berger. I know you said you kept off social media and kept away from football, but being the Swedish sensation, you're from and in Sweden, Lucas Berger then talks to me about his Sweden debut, because he did lose, his side lost against Switzerland. He did miss from close range. So would you say it's a mixed kind of debut for him?
I'd say this. I think it's important to understand that Lucas Berger was probably together with Kulusevski and Isaac and COYS, but it's basically him and this Ronnie Bajaj, who plays in Barcelona. Are the young guys that are the future of the Swedish national team, basically. And so Bergvall has been in and around the squad. He got called up for the first time, I think last year, when he started to play more for us. And he's been playing, but it's been a sub. So this was the first game he started. I think I'm not stretching or being biased when I say he was the best player on the pitch. He did have a really big opportunity at 0-0 to score the first goal, but he missed. The thing that we have, and I don't want to bore the people that are not fans of the Swedish national team, but we have this really talented team with, Isaac, COYS, Kulusevski, Bergvall, Larsen, Ayeri from Brighton, you have Elanga. So we have this really attacking, brilliant team with brilliant talents, but we have a really horrible coach. So we've lost a lot of games. That this coach has been really hesitant to kind of really play very well, whilst us fans have been screaming for it. So we lost. It was a bad game, but very well was not at fault. He played a pretty brilliant game, considering how young he is and how the short amount of time he's been with the international team. But we lost, so it's very depressing to just see us not qualify for the World Cup with this team. So it was a mixed bag in that sense as a Swedish fan, but Bergvall did well, and I'm proud of him, and Swedish Spurs fans can be proud of him. So yeah, he had a great game in general.
Absolutely, and it's been a good start to season for him. But some of those players you mentioned for Sweden, they're scary. Gyökeres, Isak, Elanga, Bergvall. There's so many you named that really excited. Larson, talk about Brian Thierry. There's just so many in there that would walk into pretty much any Premier League team. These are big players. So Swedish football is bright, and I'm a big fan of the Swedish people at the moment. As I said, supporting the channel.
We just need a keeper and a defense, and then we're good to go.
Yeah, do you know what? That's a good point. You've still got Lindelof playing for Sweden.
Yeah, when he's not injured, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point. I will say
Decky coming. I was just going to say Decky coming back will just solve it right by himself.
He's really a big guy to lose, but our biggest issue is that we can't stop conceding goals. We basically have our Ange coach right now.
I was just going to say, you got Ange. Love it. But I will say, and I only saw clips of the Sweden game from X, but Isak's got to do better with that pass from Bergvall. And Bergvall will be painted as this guy that, he's had his first start for Sweden and he's missed this golden opportunity, but he put it on a plate for Isak. And I think that's sometimes like Isak starts the season, he's moved to Liverpool, just lacking that confidence in front of goal. Who would have thought it, just to go off topic a minute, all these big players, let's look at Liverpool, they're the perfect example. Florian Wirtz, Philp and Kirkes and all these shiny players, Isak, only really Etitike, if you think about it, I think has hit the ground running. Majority of these players, I think, is because they're coming from outside of England, outside of the Premier League. But even like Kirkes and Isak, why is Etitike hitting the ground running, but not Isak? So, good question. Tottenham with Xavi Simons as well. It takes time.
And just to circle that, when you look at our summer, actually, Palhinha, Xavi, and Kudus have had really good starts. Both when you see those comparisons, I saw a comparison today between Wirtz and Xavi, and it's night and day. I mean, he's had a much better start. So we've been Frank's done a really good job at incorporating these new players and getting them fired. Because as you just mentioned, it's not a given, as we've seen in Liverpool, for example.
Exactly. Just you can have the best players in the world, best team in the world, most depth in the world, but if it doesn't gel, you try and fit too many attacking players in, maybe in the case of Liverpool as well, it's not going to help. But let's move on to the cash injection then, because this is good news and it's a good time to be a Spurs fan, however significant you think this is, because in the week we saw £100 million cash injection from the Lewis Family Trust, all part of their plan, to prioritise or at least, see it as important that it sustains success on the football pitch. So, Philip, I'll come to you first. I mean, do you see this as significant?
Yeah, I guess I do. I would caveat that, obviously, saying we've seen a lot and heard a lot, right, in our time as Spurs fans over the last years from whoever's been in charge or rumored to be in charge. So until the proof's in the pudding, right? Until the money kind of gets spent, then there's probably a little bit of, I don't know, like doubt about it. But I mean, I think the thing that made me quite excited about it was the fact that after that initial statement was made, a couple of media outlets, BBC and Sky and the Telegraph, and I think the Times, they kind of dug a bit deeper and they had like follow-up interview and conversation, and that's where it then came out saying this is the initial amount that's been put in, right? And that once Thomas Frank and his team, Langer and Vinay, obviously, right, the whole team, once they know what they need, there can be more available, right? So I think, reading between the lines and also seeing what's been said, it's 100 million initially. Maybe it's just that in January, I don't know, but there's going to be more to come. And you'd like to think, based on all of these rumors about the takeovers and, rumored interested parties and everything, I think the last guy was a bit of a publicity stunt, the DJ crypto guy, right? I don't think that was a serious topic, but the other ones in the background probably were. And, the fact that the club is steadfastly, hardcore, sticking to, saying that, we're staying and this is kind of the start of a new generation, right, and a new era, I'd like to think that, you know, this is very good news for us. And I'd imagine that the club are anyways, you know, bearing in mind we were trying to get Savinho, you know, and he would have cost £70 million, right, or whatever it would have been, maybe even more. We were willing to spend money on other ones. We probably would have spent money on Semenyo if he hadn't, you know, signed a contract extension at the time. So whether that was on top of the 100 million or whether that was like part of this kind of thing already, who knows? But I think we have to assume in this case that, you know, there is significant investment coming. And it will all depend a bit on, probably, as I said, where Frank and his team really do see the burning need, let's say for January initially, and also what players maybe they really want to move on as well, because that's always the way, isn't it, as well? Even if we are talking about players like Richarlison, you know, who do we need to still kind of get off the wage bill or maybe move on to be able to get that extra level of quality, and possibly, you know. But it's got to be exciting. It's got to be exciting for us.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think that's fair to say. Thank you very much, Philip. Matt, can I come to you? Do you think this will be the first of many in the kind of investments, you know, money put into achieving hopefully sustained success?
One can only hope. Let's put it that way. You know, I feel like we've heard this story before, where this summer it was rumored that there's, you know, 300 million pounds coming in to go spend stuff, and yet we kept coming up 5-10 million short from getting the guys everybody really wanted. Now, part of that's probably because Levy was trying to get himself a deal. He's not there anymore. We'll see how this plays out in the January window, because there's all sorts of names being bandied about as to who we're interested in. So, you know, we'll wait and see. Sure, it's good news. They could have said, no, there's no money for January. We got to tough it out till next summer. That's not what this is. This is, you know, 100 million can get you, if you spend it right, a few really nice players, or it can get you one really expensive guy. We'll see what they decide to do with it. But hopefully this isn't like, hey, it's 100 million and then let's see where it gets us. And then in summer, we'll have to kind of see if we can't have another round of fundraising. Basically, it's what it feels like. So I'll take it as good news, but I'll wait until it bears fruit in the January window as to who we add at this point.
That's a sensible way of looking at it. But Matt, if it was down to you, would you spend it in January? Because, yeah, we all know that January is a tough window to do business, or would you hold on to that until the summer?
I would go for somebody in January, because if you can get somebody in January and get a half a year with them in the system and they're on a long-term deal, then they hit the ground running at the start of next year. It's a smoother transition. I think January, it can be a tough window if you keep telling yourself it's a tough window. But I think if you go into it with, we have money to make a deal, because look at what Man City did. Man City's under 115 charges that are going to be settled at some point, right? And in January, they went and remade their defense and got themselves a midfielder and got themselves, you know, Marmouche and, you know, whatnot. And everybody else is sitting here going, oh, it's a tough window. I think if you start laying the groundwork now and you have the cash injection to say, hey, we're kind of serious about this, I think you can make moves in January. I would prefer to see that, especially with the teeth of the Champions League schedule happening after that, and hopefully deep runs, you know, in domestic cups happening, you know. So I would prefer they spend it in January.
I agree with that. You know, it's that injection of cash. Hopefully, you see, in January, and that can really push us on for the rest of the season. I mean, it's difficult because sometimes it's best to wait, but you want to spend it. So I thought I'd ask. So I do appreciate that. Philip, I'll come to you and your furry friend that has just joined you on screen, and your cat. Lovely colour, by the way. For you, where do you think the money should be spent, position-wise, in particular?
Well, I mean, I guess I would say left forward, like left wing, right? Because I still think that if we had basically someone of Kudus's quality on the left as well, who's able to go past the player, ideally with 2 feet, both 2-footed, so can go on the inside and maybe the outside, then we would be devastating. Like, literally just straight away would be devastating. So I would say on the left, but I don't know. I've kind of changed my opinion a bit over the last week or two on that somehow. Like, I think that I know Xavi's going to play number 10 and he's much better in that role, but I think he's going to, even in games where he plays number 10, I think he's going to go over to the left sometimes, and I just wonder whether Odebert and Tell between them maybe can offer us enough out there on the left. And if that was the case, I would have no issue with actually spending a lot of money potentially on another striker, on another number 9. Bearing in mind that obviously Solanke at the moment is our first choice. There'll be fans out there who will say that Solanke maybe still isn't the quality level that we need if we really want to get top 4, top 3, But I think under Frank, he's perfect for Frank. But Mwani, Kolo obviously needs to find his way in. I'm not sure we're going to extend that loan, whether it's going to be a long-term thing. Who knows? I actually think there is an argument if there was a striker out there, another number 9 who would clearly, raise our team again to another level, that why wouldn't we do it kind of thing, Solanke and Mwani and Richarlison together are not untouchable. But that's maybe that's a bit unrealistic. Maybe it is just the number, the left-sided attacker, which I think it's pretty clear we are interested in. Obviously we've tried to get Semenyo. I don't think Semenyo will come to us anyways. Even if we put 100 million down in January, he's an Arsenal fan as well. He's been very vocal about that. And I think there'll be other teams interested in Semenyo anyway, to be honest. So I don't think that one's going to happen, personally. But yeah, again, left wing probably, but why not look at the striker? If there's another striker out there that's gettable, that's what I would say. I don't think there's anyone else in the squad outside of going and getting Adam Wharton, a centre midfielder, which would likely be next summer anyways, and that would be something different as well. But again, I think probably that's unrealistic as well at the moment.
Imagine we have 4 strikers at the club. A little while ago, we had 1. It was a real battle to get the club, I think, to sign 2. And, I remember it was Kane and, be lucky if Scarlett was there or Parrott was there or they'd be sent out on loan. So to have 4 strikers at the club, if we sign one, Philip, does that represent to you how far that maybe we've come in terms of being ambitious?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I guess we were spoilt with Kane and Son, though, over the years, right? And we kind of just relied on them really as being there. Kane was there for so many years, and I don't know if we ever took him for granted, but maybe we did a bit. We kind of just, he was there the whole time, just banging the goals in, and he's continuing to do it now. And Sonny was playing up front on occasion, obviously over the years, and was scoring goals from the left. So I think we're a bit spoilt there. But again, Richarlison for me, anyways, he's not I don't think he's going to be at the club next summer, put it that way. And then I would say there's an argument we need another number 9 anyways, right? We can't rely on Solanke. We don't know what Solanke's going to be like after this injury, which is a really niggly one, apparently. Supposedly he can walk, can't he? He's like training and stuff and walking, right? Which he has been the whole time, but it keeps hurting. It gives him pain. So it's like one of those injuries that seems to be not going away, being a bit chronic. So I don't know.
He's had surgery now. So hopefully it goes to surgery.
Hopefully it does. But, without Solanke, we're still, we're threadbare up front, and again, as I said, I think Tell can still be a striker or can offer a striking option, but he's not right now. He's not he's not a world-class number 9, is he? And if we want to be serious, and if we are getting cash injections, then we probably need to look at the striker, in my opinion. You know, and I'm pretty sure that that's what Frank and the team are probably doing from a succession planning perspective as well, right? Because again, we don't know what Solanke's going to be like. You know, he could come back, hit the ground running, be fit, but even then, if we move on Richarlison, we have Colin Moani as a really viable backup, and we just don't really know what's going to happen with him. You know, if he hits the form that he showed under Frankfurt and on occasion with Juve and stuff, or for France, then he could be devastating for us because he's got that much talent. But at the moment, he's an unknown quantity, and we don't really know if it's even realistic that we would sign him permanently. So I don't know.
No, that's a good point. Again, thank you very much. Those are your positions. Let's get into the final question.
Can I just add a couple of things here?
Yeah, please do. No, please do.
So I just think it's important to kind of add a little bit of context to this injection. I think first and foremost, I always get annoyed when when journalists and aggregators frame these things like it's just a gift. I think it's important to say that they get shares, so they basically buy up more of the club when they give us these injections. So I think that's an important part, just to say that, which it just adds context to their motivations. I think it just says that if they further down the line wants to sell the club, adding more money like this to kind of raise the value of the club kind of comes back to them. So it's not out of pure ambition and, you know, we love the fans, we want the club to get going. There's always other things going on. And the other thing is that before the summer, when we came into the summer, we kind of had a cash flow problem, which basically means that we have a lot of debt that we're paying off. It's a good kind of debt. It's on the stadium, and we pay low interest rates on it, stuff like that. But it's still a lot of money every year. And then we've done a lot of things in terms of investing in players. And I think a lot of fans still have this view of you get 100 million, now you have 100 million to spend, and it's not really that easy. You have debts on these players where you pay off the debt on players that you promised money to other clubs for these players that we brought in. And so we had this cash injection problem before the summer, and we took a loan at the start of this summer. I think people kind of forgot about that. I think we took a 90 million pound loan that we plan to pay back with television money, with the revenue from the television deal that we have. So I actually think this injection, just purely looking at the 100 million, I think it's to help us. I think it's got to help us pay our debt, basically pay off the players that we brought in, and just give us a little bit more room to do something if we want to. So I don't want people to think that we might have just 100 million that we can just throw away, or throw on, you know, I don't know, a 6, I don't know, a Crystal Palace 6, for example. I don't think it's that easy. The positive thing is that they are willing to give us the cash, to give us that room, meaning they want to help the team do something if we need to do something. And I also think that when they talk about ambition in terms of they want to see the club winning more, I think it's a really natural part of, you know, if you own a club and you maximize every revenue outlets that you have. You built the stadium, you have Formula racing driving, you have tourism, you have a hotel, you have NFL games, you have concerts. At some point, the last, you know, vestige of increasing revenue is winning more. Winning more means, you know, consistent Champions League money, prize money. It means you grow the fan base, which grows the brand. It means more television money. So I think this is a natural. I think it's a natural part of when they talk about ambition and wanting the club to win, I think there's a natural part here that just comes down to capitalism. Doesn't mean that they don't want to sell the club. It just means that they want to, increase the value of the asset. So I think what Philip actually said early, which is the actual positive part, is the part when they said initial. If this is an indication of them being willing to invest more of their money for shares to make sure that we actually grow and get more and grow the brand and grow the club and win more and become a serious club, that's really positive. Because we will always, at where we are right now, if we want to compete and buy these players to become better and better, we need to invest more. We need a greater wage bill, and we need to be able to pay competitive prices for these players. And so the initial part is where I actually kind of felt like, okay, this might be something. And then we have to wait and see. But yeah, just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Simon, for that. No, some really vital context. Matt, I'm going to ask you before we move on to the last question. Are you maybe like me? And although I'm feeling confident, really happy with this and try not to look into it too much, also part of me thinks, where's this kind of push for sustained success and sporting success is a better term? Where's this all of a sudden come from that hasn't been here in the last 20 so years?
Yeah, it does seem like it's out of the blue, where they kind of gave us lip service for a while, and yet Levy was allowed to continue, and they kept running through, first team coaches like they were going out of style, and let and flounder in the league, but won the trophy, so we'll take it because it's silverware and desperately wanted a trophy and whatnot. But now all of a sudden, it's like they've just popped up like, hey, we're back. It's like they've been on a long-term vacation and they realize, oh, hey, this team needs some help. Let's hop. I mean, I'll take it. I'm not going to complain about, wanting to be ambitious and return to, we're big London club, return to those ambitions and staying competitive and whatnot. But it is kind of a quick moving thing. So I'm kind of with you and curious as to where it all came from out of the blue.
Yeah, thank you very much,
Simon.
That's Simon.
Oh boy.
For people who can't see the comments, there's a comment just come through from a listener saying Sweden are losing in a game. So
Kosovo.
I actually just want us to lose as many games as possible, so we fire this coach. It's our only chance at this point. So
maybe you can go hire Faroe Islands.
I'm just happy to be here with you guys instead of watching this shit.
Exactly. See, there we go. It's something good to come out of the podcast.
Thank you for letting me know, guy in the comments.
Yeah, definitely. That's good. Keep us updated on all the games, including Sweden. But the last question for you, and I'm going to allow a little bit of time for it. It's interesting, and I'll give credit to the guy who made me think of this and has been, I think started that conversation. It's Michael Bridge, actually, top guy for Sky Sports. And he posed the question on his socials for a show that who are the top 3 Tottenham signings in everyone's opinions since 2020? So that's players that Tottenham signed in the last 5 years. Tell you what, I'm going to do something I very rarely do, give my opinion, because a lot of people sometimes find it hard to get this conversation up and running. So firstly, I'm going to say the players and then state the order. That's what I'm going to be looking for from all of you as well. So for me, they're Romero, Kulusevski, and Van der Ven. And it's the order that is interesting. I'll probably say Romero first. Now the captain, I think he's matured really quickly and taken that captain's role superbly. I just think in terms of quality, he's just another level to everyone else. And that's nothing against the other players. I just think Romero doesn't quite get the credit or recognition almost that he deserves, even among Spurs fans, but in particular the wider football pyramid and kind of world. Second place, I'd put Kulusevski. And this is, I haven't seen Kulusevski been like in the top 2 a lot, but I think it's easy to have a short-term memory. If you go back to last season, that first half of the season, he was so key to this team. And there's so many times, a good example, a couple of games where we've gone to Man City, Etihad, he's a big game player, he produces. And, let's be clear, he can produce in the number 10 role and he could produce on the right. I think because of injuries that have gone against him, I think it's easy to forget about him and just go Romero and Van der Ven, then everyone else. So for me, Kulusevski's got to be in that discussion. So I'm going to put him second and Van der Ven third. I mean, wow, need I say any more? His pace is absolutely vital. He's even more important under Ange, but still important under Frank. So those are my top three. So I want all of your top three, and in order, with first being our best signing in the last 5 years, and obviously the third being our third best since 2020. Can I start with you, Philip, with yours?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anyone else that we've signed since then in
I
the
can
fight.
throw out names, and you just say when we have Bentancur, Kulusevski, Romero, Van der Ven, Porro, Udogi, Saar, Val, Gray, Solanke, Madison, Kudos, Xavi, Odenberg, Vicario is after 2020, Kinski, Danso, Kato Takai, Young,
Matt Doherty,
Vucevic.
Brennan Johnson.
Someone. Suma.
How tough is this, by the way? How tough is that? That's such a good list.
Did you say Basuma or Danjuma?
Bisuma. Danjuma. Oh no.
Yeah. So based on all of those signings, and also based on what they've done over the last couple of years, but also what they're doing today, moving forward, I guess probably Romero would have to be my number one as well, based on the fact that. Who? Sorry.
Emerson Royale.
Yeah. About Timo.
Yeah.
He's available on loan in January again.
No.
Spence.
Yeah. I think it would have to be Romero, based on the fact that when he came in, he's performed the whole time. We got him for what, 25 million or something at the time as well. Like, it was a pretty good price, bearing in mind he's Argentinian captain, and he's just signed a new contract. He's our club captain. He's always been there. Some people are questioned his character on occasion, or whether he's committed, but he committed himself to the club, and I think there's no doubt that he's world class. There's not many other centre backs in world football, I think, at the moment that can offer what Romero does. So he'd have to be my number one, even against the other options. Probably. Who did you say? You said Kulusevski second,
Van der Ven
third.
I think to be honest, like, to give you alternatives, Porro, Doggy, Vicario, I think those guys probably has a chance.
So many.
Porro, I'd put as a potential in there, right? Based on where he can still get to, because I think he's. Yeah, and the only other thing I would say is, I know he's only been at the club for like literally 2 months, but if he keeps going like he does, there's probably an argument that Kudus could actually already be in the top 3 signings in the last 5 or 6 years. To be honest, 50 million, that quality level, his age, like, he could be in there easily. But I'd have to pick Romero first, and then I'd probably. I'll put Kulusevski in there as well, actually. I'll put him in number 2 because he's done a lot over the last few years and he's been unlucky with injuries now. And number 3,
it's tough.
Yeah, I don't know. I might even put Kudus in at number 3 only because I love him already and I think he's going to be amazing for us. But Mickey would probably be my other number 3 as well, based on the fact that he's kind of transformed how we can play, and he's got such a high ceiling as well. People like Vicario, I can't put him at the top of any list there at the moment. Udogi, also great great potential, still great play. Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Harry, to be honest. But I would maybe swap Kudus in there. I think just maybe in the third best, just based on where he already is. I think it's such a coup, like such a coup that we got him. To be honest, for that price as well.
100%. That's a really good list there. Thank you, Philip. And do you know, I asked this question as well. I'm sure Michael Bridge did the same because he asked it across for all Premier League fans, but he wanted to gauge the thoughts of Tottenham fans, being a Tottenham fan himself. But it's so tough. And from a Tottenham point of view, I could easily give a top 6, top 8. I think I'd be, I'm not saying easy in terms of it'd still be like who's going to be third, fourth, fifth, but we could list that many comfortably, and that's real credit to the club. I'm going to go on to in just a second. But Matt, can I have your top 3 and your order, please?
Yeah. I think I'll put Van de Ven 1.
Okay.
Because of the versatility he provides on defense. But also we got to keep in mind we wouldn't have the Europa League trophy if Van de Ven doesn't make that ridiculous goal line save in the 80 whatever minute. That's now one of those great framed images. And then I put Romero 2. And then I may have to go out to 6 with it because splitting hairs between the last one between Kulusevski and Porro, simply for defensively he's great, but then what he offers offensively coming forward and his set piece deliveries and whatnot has been pretty key for the way we play. Madison, when he's healthy, is pretty hard to overlook. And Kudus, I mean, I know it's only been the only knock on him is it's only been a couple months, but that's unfair to him because what he's done in those couple months is quite frankly ridiculous, and the reason why I have his kit. So those would be the 6. I don't know who's 3 between those 4, to be honest. I may lean Madison because when he's healthy, I think he's still the creative heartbeat and adds to the goals and assists a little bit more than Kulusevski. That'd probably be my 3.
Okay, that's a good shout. Honestly, I can't express how easy this looks and sounds, but how tough it is.
We signed Madison 2023.
Yeah.
22?
Yes.
23.
23, 24.
Yeah.
And
The same year that we got Porro officially and Kulo and Van de Ven.
What a couple of windows.
So Kulusevski has 2 more years on Madison, right?
God,
One
yeah,
and a
I
half.
think so.
1.5.
Well, he was on loan before he was a permanent.
Okay. Yeah, but we got him.
Yeah, we got Kulusevski on loan in the 21-22 season and then permanent in the 23-24 summer. So,
can I do mine now?
yeah.
I was going to ask you. Go for it.
I actually think Romero is probably, after Son, our best signing the last 15 years, something like that, right? I'm sorry, I'm trying to think. It's after Bale, it's Sonny and Romero. So Romero is number 1, unquestionably. He's a future Spurs legend. I actually think the thing that Van de Ven and Madison don't have is they've been here shorter and both have had extended injuries. The thing that kind of pushes Van de Ven up is that without him, we don't have I laughed so much at that comment. It's a comment that says Bale. It's easy to forget we signed him 2020.
Yeah, that's true. He does fit in this
Fit in the
in this exercise.
Technically.
So I think like Kulusevski has been here for a long while, and he's been good, consistently good, up until a couple of injury things that he's had, with this last one being the big one. So I have to put Kulusevski. I actually thought you made a really good point there, Harry, with him. And then Van der Ven, he goes up there because of that. Without him, we don't have the European trophy, which is, the biggest of them all. So yeah, I got the same as Harry basically. I do think we underestimate our fullbacks. Udogie and Poro is massive signings, and I also think, and I've said this many times, but I don't want to fight about him every pod. But Vicario is becoming criminally underrated. He's been really big for us since he came, but I still think he's still big.
Thank you very much, all of you, for giving your top three. But again, that's a tough question. If you're listening, guys, be on audio platform or YouTube, please get involved with your top three and in order, because there will be some difference in opinion. I've seen, for example, Romero always in that top three. Van der Ven tends to be in that top three, but the order is where it's ever so slightly different. But I want to end with just how our recruitment has been in the last few years. And Simon, I'll come back to you. Do you think our recruitment has improved? We speak about from 2020, let's just say in the last 5 years.
It definitely improved. It started to improve in 2021 when Fabrizio, I'm sorry, these Italians and
Fabio Paratici
came in, and they started to kind of just restructure everything from the academy and just going for younger players. That's when we started to go. We got Sar, Bentancur, Kulusevski. Vicario is on the end part of that, Madison. But when we started to kind of go for, we started to find our niche in terms of mixing good valued players that were before when we started recruiting players really young, like prospects, and we started to go for good players for good prices. At the start of their prime years. And I think it's gone from strength to strength. I still think we're slow. I think we do business slowly, and I still think we're bad at selling, which impacts how we can buy. And I still think our wage structure needs to kind of get in line with being a top six club, but I'm much more. I think the targets we're getting now are a lot better. We had a couple of years there where we were in no man's land. It was really, really depressing. I'm thinking about before Conte, Jose, Nuno. Yeah, it looked really dark for a time there. But these last 4 years have been really good, in my opinion. It can get a lot better.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, it's about going to that next step, isn't it? Like not replacing Son. I still think maybe people are very quick to forget about that. Just going to go to a couple of YouTube comments because David Clark is a regular. And this is a couple of really bold takes. I can't say I agree with, but I'm going to read them out nonetheless. Firstly, he says, please tell me where Kulusevski is going to get in this side when fit, being a total flop in the number 10 role and has no chance of replacing Kudus in any important matches. I think he's a bench. Well, and that's I've been watching football with, my eyes closed when Kulusevski has been fit. I don't think he's been a flop in that 10 role. Has anyone in the panel got anything to say about Kulusevski and maybe that comment, but also where you think he fits in under Frank when he is eventually back from injury?
Just quickly, I think we have to get off this thing of there's an 11 and that 11 is for every game.
Yes.
I think 16 really good players and
need rotation
and rotate those players. And I definitely think Kulusevski is one of those players who can play in a different in two different roles, three almost, but at least two different roles. So yeah, I don't agree with that take.
I think I would probably prefer Kulusevski at the 10 role in the Champions League games over Xavi just for the experience and a little bit more physicality that he brings. for sure.
I think they play on different sides, so I think it depends on what you're playing, right? If you're playing a 10 or if you're playing 2 8s, you can have
That's true.
Kulusevski or Savi playing, Kulusevski playing with Madison because he's
Right, but this also goes back to like, are we keeping the two defensive?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Midfielders with Sarr and Paulinho, or Betancourt and Paulinho, or Betancourt and Sarr.
3 or this is why I'm thinking just 111 is a little bit redundant.
It does go a lot further than that. Has anyone else got anything to say before we wrap up? No.
Just on Kulusevski quickly.
Yeah.
Is there an argument, possibly, to think or to say that he could, on occasion, play on the left under Frank in certain games?
How many times? Let's see.
I know he's like Kulusevski's left-footed, isn't he? And I think Frank does want Udogie. Yeah, I think Frank wants Udogie to kind of get to the byline theoretically, which is also why he anyways kind of like thought that Xavi could play kind of out on the left side and come inside, maybe to get introduced to British football. But I think Frank does like having wingers like Kudus as well, who can go both ways. Like Kudus in that game against was it Burnley when Richarlison scored the 2, the really good finishes and the acrobatic goal where Kudus basically twice got to the byline on his right foot, and I just wonder whether Kulusevski, if it's a case of kind of trying to not squeeze him into the team, right, because he deserves his place, but whether he could do a job maybe out on the left, right? I don't know. Just an idea.
Just having watched him his whole careers, never really played there.
Correct.
I think this is the big issue. Like, I do think you need some kind of, muscle memory and experience of knowing how you want to play on that side. And then he's really left-footed. So he's kind of like Madison and Xavi. Like, he likes to cut in on his strong foot. And that's why I think on that, if you think of a 4-3-3 and the right-sided midfielder, that's where he's at his absolute best, because he doesn't really like to be on really wide, like Kudos, and go 1v1 and go on the outside, because he doesn't like to use his right foot. So I actually think, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Could he play, if he plays Palina in the holding role? Could he theoretically play Xavi and Kulusevski in front of Palina?
That's what I think it could.
Because that would be pretty sexy, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but especially if we get a really this is like, I wasn't against Palina per se, but I really want us to get like a proper 6 who could really play on the ball, like a Rob G type of person that could really progress the ball in the center of the pitch, who's more of a passer. Because if you have one of those players, then you can definitely have 2 more attacking 8s on different sides, especially in games where you're going to dominate the ball a lot. Palina, I think you could do it with Palina as well, depending on who you play. Depending if the team is like really aggressive and pressing, then I think it could be hard. We can still do it because both Kulusevski and Madison or Xavi can come deep and help out. But yeah, I think an ideal team for us has 2 more attacking players on there. And you also have Kudos can also play there, one of those 8 roles. He's also really good in central areas and stuff. So yeah, definitely.
It's a good point, so Ram. Thank you very much. I think that wraps us up though nicely for this episode during the international break, the second one I believe we've had of the break. So thank you very much to everyone who's listened, whether it be live on YouTube, afterwards on YouTube, which you can do, or on audio, so via a podcast platform. Because reminder, you can find the podcast on all your major podcast platforms. There's so many. I just talk about the key ones, your Spotify, Amazon Music, or Apple Music. But I believe in the top 32, didn't know there was that many as well. Different types of podcast platforms you can find the podcast on. Someone informed me the other day. So there you go. That's absolutely insane. I want to reiterate what I said at the start in terms of thank you for the continued support. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. I will let you decide to be able to hear me and others from 22 different countries. But either way, I think it's absolutely staggering. Absolutely is. So thank you so much. 1 million views too across, in particular, the YouTube channel. And it wouldn't have been possible without you guys listening and contributing at home or wherever you are, and without my fantastic guests that I have the privilege of talking to every single episode. So big thanks to 3 of them here tonight, 3 actually regulars as well of the podcast. They're all fantastic in their own way. So let's see if we can find them across all socials. We'll start with Philip, who looking forward to saying that hopefully we'll be doing some more content for the channel to come soon. But Philip, where for now could people follow you across social media? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on as always, Harry. It's a pleasure. I'm mainly on X at Frankfurt Spurs. I just generally tweet about Spurs stuff, obviously, bit of Bundesliga stuff, Eintracht Frankfurt stuff. I keep threatening or promising or whatever to kind of do more and everything else, and I will be, and we'll certainly do some stuff together, Harry. So that's cool. But yeah, just come and find me on there. I'm nowhere else. That's it, pretty much. X, I would say.
Fantastic stuff. I can't wait to get it up and rolling. I always like, as I said before, listening to your analysis of things. So thank you, Philip, for your time tonight. Matt, thank you very much for coming on. It's great to have you on again. Where can people follow you across the socials?
I'm mainly on X and Blue Sky at the same thing, which is at the Salesman. I was on Blue Sky a while ago, and now I'm trying to get back to it because X is going way, way, way worse. But yeah, I'm on both of those. There's a variety of things. I'm talking about Spurs, American sports, who my teams are losing to or beating, whatnot. But that's mainly where you can find me.
Excellent stuff. Thank you for your time. Have a good rest of your day. And Simon, thank you so much for coming on from Sweden as well. So really do appreciate you. And, the Swedish people love you too, because they keep coming to listen to the podcast. They keep coming to listen to my channel. So thank you. I mean, you can have a long time, permanent contract here. We talk about Chelsea contracts, let's double that. But where can people follow you on the socials?
Yeah, you can find me on Blue Sky. You can find me on X. You can find me on Instagram. But mainly, if you're a Spurs fan, you find me on X and on here. Thank you guys. This has been one of my favorite panels. Philip and Matt, go and follow them. Amazing guys. And Harry, thank you for having me. Go vote for Harry if it's still open. For best young content, what's the category?
Best young content creator. Unfortunately, it is now closed, but thank you to everyone who has voted.
I just wanted to say that you were nominated.
No, thank you. No, it's very kind of you. It means a lot. Thank you. And fingers crossed we win some of it. 3rd time lucky. It just feels right. In Leeds, 20th of November. So we'll have to see. But hopefully get the channel as well nominated next year. But thank you so much, Simon, for coming on. Do appreciate it. A reminder, if you're listening on YouTube, please do like and subscribe. Ever growing. So thank you so much. If you're listening on a podcast platform, that is your audio. Please do drop a follow, 5-star review, and whatever platform you're listening on, watching or listening, just let us know where you're listening from, what time of day it is, whether you're on the way to work, on the way to school, chilling in the evening. Let us know. Always find that fascinating. But for now, a massive come on, you Spurs.